Okay, good morning everybody. Thank you very much for joining us. Our participants are slowly loading themselves onto our Zoom call this morning. The Zoom call this morning is about trade with the United Arab Emirates as a respite from constantly looking at issues with Brexit and the UK's exit from the European Union. Can the participants please tune in, and the speakers and panelists please turn their microphones on and their video feed on, please. Thank you very much. Who are we missing? Anybody else? Coming through quick, loud and clear. Good, 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 good. Okay. So, many thanks for our sponsors, first of all, this morning, Greater London Authority and CBS from the United Arab Emirates. And a huge thanks to our panelists for joining us today and taking time out from their busy days. I'd like to welcome Liz Ambler from HSBC. Also Faya Sultan, who brings with her from the CBS team in Dubai, Ayman Awadhi and Louie, Balbuena. Also, they brought along a case study, Ricky Kothari from T-Sticks, and also we have Steve Rapley from DIT in the London trade team joining us today. You are all very welcome. This is the first in a series of 4 webinars that we're going to be rolling out that will be delivered by the West London Export Club, which is a collaboration between Hounslow Chamber and West London Business, who we'd like to welcome to do this event with us today. What are we here to do today? We're here as Chambers of Commerce and Business Associations to help companies grow locally in West London, and more importantly, to grow internationally in the wider world outside. UK represents 3% of the world's GDP. With 97% in the rest of the world, that's a large market to export to. So why limit yourselves to just selling in the UK? More recently, trade with the EU, the UK's biggest trading partner, has been filling the news with lots of issues since the 1st of January when we signed our trade agreement. This news has seen 74% of UK companies have been reporting trading problems with the EU, largely due to border issues. And in the UK, we often look over to German companies to give us a guide. Germany is the EU's largest exporter. And even Germany has had 56% reduction in their exports to the UK alone since the 1st of January, which is quite a downturn. So our message to you today is we suggest that you lift your sights a little bit more to rest of the world markets outside the EU. Do your desk research in the UK, understand your customers, get your head round any compliance issues that your banks may want to ask. Understand if there are any sanctions against those markets. Sanctions come into play in a bigger way when you're looking to establish a newer market. A lot of today's mature markets like North America, Australia and New Zealand are well established for companies who do exporting. So if you're looking to grow into new markets like Latin America, like Africa, like Asia, or like the Middle East and North Africa, you need to understand what happens in those markets properly. You also need to work out if they have a strong desire for UK branded goods, and more importantly, the ability to actually buy and the affordability to be able to afford premium brands that come from the UK. In the Middle East and North Africa, I can think of nowhere better than the United Arab Emirates, where there is a strong link and bond between the UK and the UAE. There's a strong desire for a premium UK brand, and there's a good appetite with people that can afford to buy the products. The United Arab Emirates, though, doesn't just represent a market domestically for them. It's a major, major re-exporting hub, not just for the Gulf, but for Africa and for Indian markets. Only this morning, I sent an inquiry for some very large generators to an English company that's based in Dubai. I say an English company, I've got to watch my words. They're a Northern Irish company who've got an office in Dubai, and those goods will be for the destination in North Africa. So it just goes to show you how the marketplace actually works globally. Today, our first speaker that we've got is Liz Ambler from the UK's largest bank, HSBC. Liz, you're very welcome to join us this morning. Please go ahead with your presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Alan. Thank you. So good morning, everyone. So it's fantastic to be here and join you in this event today. So a very brief introduction. So as Alan said, I'm Liz and I head up a team of trade and receivables finance specialists in the London and South East regions. So my team typically help facilitate and fund trade for HSBC customers who turn over up to 10 million, but of course HSBC as a whole help businesses of all sizes and types. And maybe we have some of our customers on the line today. So today I'm going to be talking about getting paid for the exports that you make and how you can finance that. And the topic is relevant as to whether you're exporting to the UAE or of course anywhere else in the world. So the contract and agreement that you enter into with your customer is crucial in determining how and when you're going to get paid for the goods you have shipped or the services you have fulfilled. So key factors in arriving at what terms you will agree will be your length and strength of pre-existing relationship. Are you a new supplier or do you have a long established track record? The relative strength of your customers in relation to yourself. So who is calling the shots? Who is setting the terms of trade? Any preference they or you have to the type of terms agreed? The availability of credit insurance might also be a big factor in your mind. And also yours and their cash flow could be also a determining factor. You want to be paid quickly, but they want to stretch out payment terms. I'm sure many of you will be familiar with what we call a risk ladder, something we use here at HSBC to explain what is the safest way for either the importer or the exporter to secure payment and what trade products can be used. So I'm just going to share my screen now so you'll be able to see what I'm referring to. So hopefully you can see that. So as the exporter, your payment preference is probably to be paid up front before the goods have left your premises. So advanced payment, which you can see at the bottom there. If you don't receive payment, you don't ship the goods. But how does that feel from the importer's point of view? So somebody out in Dubai, for example. The importer could feel uncomfortable making payment ahead of seeing the goods, or indeed having the knowledge that they have been dispatched. So these opposing views are at the two ends of the risk ladder. What is the best for the exporter is the least preferable for the importer. What the importer would actually like is open account. So you can see that at the top there. The importer wants to receive the goods and then would like a period of time in which to pay, say 30, 60 or 90 days. Clearly, this is going to be the best for their cash flow. They don't have to pay their supplier until they have probably sold the goods on or received payment themselves. But for the exporter, this is high risk. The goods have been dispatched and they need to wait some time for payment. They not only run the risk of cash flow stretch, but also potential buyer default. So if advance payment or open account cannot be agreed on, what are the alternatives? So I'd like to talk about two types of trade products that help the exporter and importer meet somewhere in the middle. So firstly, documentary collections, or you might know those as bills for collection. If this process is used, the exporter instructs their bank to forward the documents related to the export of goods to the importer's bank with a request to present these documents to the importer for payment. The exporter can indicate when and on what conditions the documents can be released to the importer. So typically, once the importer has made payment, they can then receive the documents, so the bill of lading and the certificate of origin, for example, which allows them to clear customs and collects their goods. It's important to note that there is still no guarantee of payment for the exporter. The bank will only pay the exporter if the importer pays. So the bank is acting like a post box. They are handling the documents. For this reason, the exporter does not need a credit facility with their bank, and the process is cheaper than letters of credit, which is the next rung on the ladder, which I will come on to in a minute. So these are two types of documentary collections for you to consider. Documents against acceptance are documents are released to the importer against their acceptance of a term bill payable at a fixed or determinable future date. The importer's acceptance, normally written on the face of the bill of exchange, signifies acceptance of the terms and agreement to settle the bill on its maturity. However, this does not guarantee payment because the bill still may be dishonoured on due date. The other type of documentary collections is the documents against payment, also known as cash against documents. This provides the exporter more security because the documents, such as bill of lading, are released to the importer only once payment has been made. So moving on to documentary credits, which you may know as letter of credit. So this is a popular method of settling international trade because they offer security to both the importer and exporter because they are honoured through the banking system. A beneficiary can also seek to discount a letter of credit, therefore obtaining funding early. Essentially, a letter of credit is an undertaking by the issuing bank on behalf of the importer that payment will be made provided that the exporter, so the beneficiary, complies with all the terms and conditions stipulated on the letter of credit. They are usually issued in irrevocable form, and here at HSBC is our global policy to do that, which means that the instrument constitutes a definite undertaking and cannot be revoked or amended without agreement from all parties. So essentially, if the exporter complies with all terms on the letter of credit, the exporter's bank must make payment regardless of whether the import has the funds to make that payment. So for that reason, the importer needs to have a credit facility with their bank. There is a higher cost attached, but it's a more secure way of transacting. There's two types of letter of credit: sight, which means as soon as the bank sees the document, payment is made to the exporter, and usance, which means once the bank has the documents, an agreed period of time is given, say 60, 30 days, before payment is made to the exporter. So these are the key methods which you can have in your toolkit when thinking about getting paid. So the last part I wanted to touch on is your cash flow. If you negotiate an option whereby there is a period of time between you paying your supplier and your business then getting paid for that sale. This period of time could potentially be several months. So how can you fund that? So a couple of options for you to consider. As a business in the UK, you could consider a buyer loan through your bank, whereby you have a finance facility to cover the cash flow gap of you having to pay your supplier, then you receive payment from your customer. So the cash flow gap prior to the point of sale. This would be termed a buyer loan. You may think of it as a loan against import, for example. And in fact, HSBC, we provide this sort of facility. If your supplier is also based in the UK, it doesn't have to be an overseas transaction. The other option you could consider is Receivables Finance, which provides finance from the point of sale to your customers, whether they are based in the UK, internationally, or a combination of both. So Receivables Finance uses the debtor book as its security and source of repayment, typically releasing 80 to 90% of the value of the debtor book and ongoing sales invoices to promote better cash flow, aid growth, and can be coupled with a bad debt insurance type of product. So one other consideration I want to leave you with today is currency risk. So if you keep all trade in the same currency, then that's going to be best for yourself, but when trading internationally, that becomes less likely. So matching currency to supplier payments and receipts is preferable, but if you do find yourself in a situation whereby you have receipts in one currency and payments required in another, do consider hedging techniques and products. And we do have specialists at HSBC, as do the other banks, to help you with this. You may also consider foreign currency accounts. Borrowing in foreign currency, repayable from currency receipts, can eliminate exchange risk, and in some cases could be cheaper at times than borrowing in sterling. So that's a bit of a whistle-stop tour of the main methods and products to consider. HSBC, of course, has a very informative website covering the content I've talked about today. So head over to business.hsbc.uk for more information. And thank you for listening.
Fantastic, Liz. Thank you very, very much. A quick question from my side. I promise not to put you too much on the spot.
That's all right.
What's the maximum amount of time you can have an avalised bill of exchange for?
Oh, I'd have to check that, Alan. I'm not. I'm going to go 180
I believe
days.
it's 360 days.
Yeah, something along those lines. I was going a little bit shorter than that, but yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. It gives a good idea on how you can discount your payment terms on doing a bill of exchange transaction or a letter of credit transaction if you want more documentation behind it.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you very much for that today. Faya, please introduce the wonderful team you brought with you today from the United Arab Emirates and your case study. Thank you very much for all joining us. We do appreciate it. And thank you very much for bringing some Dubai weather, by the way, to the UK for us for the last few days. We did say on our run-in for the webinar, have a bit of sunshine for your winter, and look what's happened. We've got 23 degrees in London today. Thank you.
Yes, we're all going to be packed in the parks this afternoon after this webinar. To start with, I'd like to thank you, Alan, for your kindness and for hosting this webinar. Also to thank your lovely team as well. They've been working hard on it, I know that well. To start with, I would like to introduce the corporate group, which is Corporate Business Services, is a subsidiary of that. The corporate group is an Emirati-owned and run corporate based in Dubai. And with us, Ayman, who will be speaking next. He is our group managing director. We offer services from A to Z. And when I say from A to Z, I really mean everything from A to Z. So it can be either setting up a business or trade, market entry, licensing, relocation services, whatever you wish we can offer. So I will put our website later on in the chat so you can see what our offers are if you want to go straight to the website. I think what I would think of as our USP is that the corporate is owned by Emirati nationals, 3 very clever brothers and a sister. And the strength of it is that we are strategic partners of the UAE government, which means that the group has very good reach in contacts, in connections, in introductions. So there you are. You know, we've got the answers for everything, and Ayman has the answers to everything as well. So this is about the corporate group. About myself, I'm based in London and I work with a corporate group under Corporate Business Services. I've always been based in London. I've worked with the UAE Embassy for 10 years, assisting companies, UK companies, in market entry to the UAE. And also after that, I worked for the government of Dubai doing the same thing. So I can advise, I can direct, I'm here to give free advice. I will put my email and my phone number in the chat later on. So please do contact me for any questions, or I can also refer you to our team in Dubai.
And you do an excellent job as well doing that, Faya. I must interject to say, you come along to most of our events, you interact well with all of the companies that we have as members, and you're extremely helpful to all of them with a great big signpost saying that way to get to Dubai.
Thank you, Alan. Yes, we try. I think that comes from a passion. I'm very, very, very passionate about Dubai, about the UAE. Basically, I could be a UAE citizen because, or a national, because I've had history with the UAE, seeing it from sand to silicone, and I have lots of love for it. So next, I'm going to introduce Ayman, our very clever founder and partner of the corporate group. He is the group managing director. Ayman will have all the answers to your questions, and I'm always with Ayman on WhatsApp almost daily, day and evenings, talking, answering questions, and communicating. Ayman is educated in America, so he speaks perfect English. There's no problem with communication whatsoever, and he will tell us all about market entry approach. So Ayman, over to you.
Thank you, Fayha. Good morning, everybody. Alan, your great team. I'm really pleased to be here today with you guys and sharing what is happening here from Dubai and the UAE, and reconnecting with you guys since our last time interaction, which I believe it was on June last year. And therefore trying to bring all sort of updates and things that we've been experiencing since then until today, to bring a value addition for the beautiful audience that we are not seeing them physically, but soon, inshallah, this year or next year, we will be there physically and meeting all the members face to face and exchange the information. I have a presentation to share, and therefore I'll just do a screen share.
Shukran, Ayman. Inshallah, ashufik soon, huh?
Inshallah. All right. Doing well so far. Okay. There you go. So I thought I actually last year I ran into an event where Wavetech, which is a British or Northern Ireland company from Belfast, has actually introduced or was discussing about the topic of key factors to attract foreign direct investment in terms of a recovery of FDI into a particular region or country. And I would like to do a reflection on that, because I think it's really good reconnection on that topic, so that you understand why UAE is the center point to be here and do business, to take the chance of today's opportunity of doing business here. They have discussed about 4 key factors to drive recovery of FDI in a region or a territory, and they are destination country. Basically here, what they meant is that dealing with investor confidence in terms of containment of COVID and reopening again for business. The second factor, source of country, lifting up all sorts of restrictions that is happening around the country and internationally as much as possible for major source of market to resume in this territory such as UAE. Third, sector specialization by introducing focus sector for faster recovery of FDI, and reconnecting the supply chain management to enable doing business here in the UAE, for example. And fourth, but not least, but not last, is the policies in terms of investment and incentives and bilateral agreements. I will try to take each point and give a reflection of what is really happening in UAE, what the UAE government and Dubai government has done against each factor, so you can understand the value proposition of what we have today in Dubai or UAE as doing business in the region. When it comes to destination country, UAE has ranked first on a number of global indices for its efforts to tackle the COVID. That's happened because of timely preparation, aggressive testing, tracing of carriers, and extensive vaccination campaign that we had throughout the whole UAE has actually limited the outbreak of COVID. UAE kept the mortality rate very low comparing to the other countries. Ranked #1 globally for daily vaccination dosage distribution, and that took place on January, and now it is second to Israel. Ranked #5 globally for vaccine availability, and then UAE launched a national sterilization campaign throughout the year last year, and it was happening frequently. And that really affected brought a positive impact into the whole program of containment of the COVID. The reflection on the second factor of how UAE dealt with it is source of country here. So Emirates Airline now flying up to 70% of its full list of destinations, actually. So they are almost there to reach back to the normal. And I am hearing good positive news from certain contacts I have from the Emirates Airline saying that if no surprises upcoming few months, they should go back to normal full list of destination by midsummer or late summer. Travel corridors first started with UK, but then it was shut down by January. And then India, Indonesia was actually in the list in 2020. So therefore, the travel corridors was doing its job for certain period of time, and it's going to continue to open more travel corridors with other countries. Major international events and exhibitions took place in UAE, such as GITEX. We had it on December 2020 last year. We had Gulf Food that we participated this year in our biggest booth or stand exhibition that was happening on February, and also the IDEX, which is the military and defense exhibition, took place in Abu Dhabi. For the sector specialization, Dubai ranked #1 globally for attracting FDI for AI and robotics to become regional supremacy. Dubai leading the region for aerospace because we have space programs and activities here, and with the Dubai Air Show, it facilitates for the aerospace program. And also automotive sector, where lots of opportunities available for the autonomous vehicles testing and go live within a year or so. For constructions and real estate sector, Dubai embracing 3D printing technology to achieve 3D printing strategy by 2030. For agriculture and food, Dubai is adding a halal food trading center, while Abu Dhabi is actually leading for agri-tech incentive program to achieve UAE food security strategy. And recently, a week ago, Operation 300 billion is a new strategy that has come up with UAE government that aims to make industrial sector the main driver of UAE economy, contributing more than 300 billion to the GDP by 2031. As a matter of fact, currently it's doing only half of that performance. When it comes to policies, Dubai offered more than 7 billion stimulus package between March last year and January this year. Dubai Free Zone's economic stimulus packages range from number of financial and non-financial incentives that was covering plus 34 free zones located within Dubai itself. Abu Dhabi launched 110 million financial incentives for agri-tech companies who would like to take a part as a base in Abu Dhabi, and this was part of Abu Dhabi Ghadan program. Ghadan means tomorrow, and it's an initiative of Abu Dhabi to spend 50 billion dirham in the next 10 years. For ADIO Ventures funds, they have allocated 500 million for innovative startups and new fund managers. ADIO stands for Abu Dhabi Investment Office, who is primarily attracting FDIs in Abu Dhabi capital. And then finally, UAE has signed more than 130 investment protection agreements, in which majority of them are actually enforced. And there is a nice website I encourage all of you to visit and have a time to explore its content. It's Dubai FDI Monitor. It basically gives you a very simple approach, a dashboard where it tells you all the investments happening in Dubai. You can download the reports, all data is available sector-wise, and you will really understand the landscape of investment in Dubai. And this is a product that is made available by our strategic partner, Dubai FDI. So I will be opening the floor for a discussion on legal and operational landscape when it comes to do business in Dubai. Two jurisdictions to choose from. We have the mainland and we have the free zone. Few regulations put in place to govern your business. So when it comes to do business in the UAE, you have to be careful of the following: is that these regulations is basically to govern your business and in the jurisdiction that you are choosing or you're operating from. If you are in the mainland, you would have certain governance around it, and in the free zone also the same. So you need to be aware of these regulations so you can run your business in a peaceful way. And it to protect your labor rights and consumer rights and intellectual property rights. So these regulations actually is very important as it touches different subjects within your business and operation. These regulations also it protects health and environment and the security aspect of your business and operation that you conduct within the region. When it comes to the applicability of this regulation for the mainland, you have the UAE Federal Law number 2/2015 on commercial companies. So this is basically going to be your reference point for any regulation or law matter. And for free zone, there will be general business and commercial law and common practices that being adapted in each free zone to govern and operate your business. When it comes to taxes, we have VAT as a 5% tax on goods and services being served in the UAE country as a final destination of those services and goods. And we started VAT from January 2018. It's pretty much a similar foundation of the UK VAT tax. Excise tax on specific goods harmful to human and environment, valued at 50 to 100%. We literally don't have a corporate tax, however, only applies on foreign banking or on foreign banks and oil companies. A foreign investor can conduct business via legal entity in the following ways. You either could incorporate a local entity or to register a branch or foreign company of a parent entity, or you could establish a free zone entity. And in another way also, you could appoint a commercial agent who would be acting as your distributor in the region. And the commercial agent is governed through the mainland law, and it has to be 100% Emirati shareholder. Some of the regulation bodies that you really need to familiarize yourself while doing business in UAE is Department of Economic Development, which is the issuing authority of all licenses in the mainland. So if we're talking about Dubai, then we are having Dubai DED. If we're talking about Abu Dhabi, then we have Abu Dhabi DED. The Immigration Department, or what is it referred to, DNRD, is basically is the regulating body to issue the visas for the residency, being for investors, residents in Dubai, such as family members and so forth. When it comes to employees, they are registered under the Ministry of Human Resources, MOHRI, as a mainland. And then there are other governments surrounding your business operation, depending on your business activity nature. If you are into food and beverage, then you need to be obtaining approvals with the municipalities. If you are into chemical trading and products, then you need to get further approval with the Ministry of Environment and Climate Change, and so forth. So there are different governments that will be regulating your business and obtaining approval from, and you need to interact with them. And these governments, there are two types: local governments and federal government, and they are having head offices in each city. Some of the updates to share with you all of what's happening here these days is that significant amendments to Uae Company Law has been introduced, and this to allow 100% full foreign ownership on onshore companies, primarily targeting the limited liability company and private joint stock companies. And the law or the decree has been released on November and has been published officially on December last year, and it is expected to be into execution by June this year. We are expanding our operation, second international operation into Saudi and Riyadh, to tap on the opportunities that Saudi is providing these days, and to be closer to our clients that we serve in that territory. And don't forget to follow us on our social media accounts to know more about us and what we are doing, and also joining our monthly webinar and subscribe for those ones. Thank you. And now I will pass the floor to my colleague Louie, who will be talking more about products under the corporate trade house.
Hi. Thank you so much, Ayman, for the brief introduction. Thank you, Alan, for having me to speak again in this webinar, and I hope everyone is having a great time on getting the insights in today's topic, which are really, really important at this climate. Let me have a brief introduction of myself. So my name is Louie. So I'm heading the trading subsidiary of the corporate group. So it's called the Corporate Trade House. We are a international trading house, which we are based in Dubai and represent a lot of FMCG products. So in particular with food and beverage category. And then we also act as a distributor and we sell to different channels, such as to sub-distributors in the country. So retail supermarkets, or that's what we call the modern trade channels. So the HoReCa, which is the hotel, restaurants, and cafes. And in particular now with the current situation of the pandemic, which we are tapping a lot of e-commerce platform in the UAE and outside the UAE. So we also act as what my colleague Ayman mentioned. We are a local representative or act as a commercial agent on behalf of the brand owner who wants basically to enter or try to introduce their product to the UAE market. And alongside on that, we assist and provide services pertaining to product registrations from different sectors in the government or the approving body, logistic and supply chain, connecting through distributors in the UAE, not only in the UAE, but we also cover within our networks in the North Africa, Levant, and the GCC. So I'm very excited to share with you today's topic, which I believe it's relevant, current, and very useful for startups, manufacturers, or brand owners, and small, medium enterprise companies. So let me share my screen. So I call this presentation actually the know-how. So again, it's because it's being practical and very useful to everyone who are basically the brand owners or manufacturers actually who are in today's webinar. It has been significantly witnessed that the UAE continues to grow its import and export capabilities, firmly positioning the UAE itself as a global logistic hub. In order for any company to import, obviously we need to have a trading license or an approved trading license. It is a must, or a local representative or a distributor who any company overseas can appoint it, actually who are based in the UAE. We should also be a VAT or VAT and custom registered with a valid import code. The UAE Imports Overview in general. So there are ways on how local companies or importers normally import products to the UAE, and that can be from two different origins. So we do have an origins or the products which coming from outside the UAE or rest of the world, which can be sold or consigned to the UAE local market or the mainland Dubai, could also be consigned to free zones of other Emirates. So the other Emirates normally are Abu Dhabi, Ajman, Fujairah, Sharjah, Ras Al Khaimah, and Al Quwain, or from the rest of the world to the other countries outside the UAE within the GCC, which are KSA, Bahrain, Oman, Kuwait, and now Qatar. UAE has been established trading relations between the Middle East and globally, which makes it one of the easiest countries in the world to do business with. Also, the second one, which is goods can be also consigned coming from the free zones of Dubai, which we do have more than 12 free zones altogether, which also can be sold or consigned again to these three categories: the local market, the free zones of the other Emirates, and the GCC countries, which are the countries which I've mentioned. These include the minimal imports and export tariffs, which we practice between the neighboring GCC countries, which are the duties applicable for all imported goods that are meant for consumption in the UAE local market are 5% import duty on most items, 0% on selected items like raw materials for manufacturing, diplomatic goods, military goods, and charities. So 50% on alcohol, 100% on cigarettes. And now we do have also the excise tax for sugary drinks, carbonated drinks, and free zone licenses are exempt on custom duties. So before we could import any product, being an importer or a local representative who is going to be importing your products, which falls again into FMCG category. So it has to go through with the product registrations to begin with. And that is the first step actually for us to know if we can import a product or you can export the product. So a product registration application and approval from respective authorities. Importers or buyers must register to begin with their products and obtain the necessary approval prior in order for them to trade and basically clear it at the customs. So each authority has different sets of requirements, regulations, and processes. So who are the approving related bodies or authorities in the UAE, and what product falls under each office? So one is the Ministry of Health, which covers the regulated into medical and pharmaceutical, including the parapharmaceutical products, such as medical equipments, spa and salons equipment. One of the most widely used in terms of product registrations and approval is Dubai Municipality. So Dubai Municipality, if you have goods that you want to register and import, Dubai Municipality covers the registration and approval for food and non-food. So mostly of all the FMCG products, it is governed by Dubai Municipality. Emirates Quality Mark, which are the products under that would be the mineral water or sparkling still water, all the dairy products. We do have also the ECAS scheme, which covers the electronics and appliances, glasswares, housewares, including also other products which is related to petroleum. And we do have the TRA, which is the Telecommunication Regulatory Authority, which covers the given approval on mobile phones, SIM cards, and other IT products. Other than the conventional trading through the modern or international trade, or the ones we called selling it into the normal way, which is tapping or offering the products to retail supermarkets or HoReCa, so selling through the e-commerce platform for the last couple of years has witnessed a massive increase in terms of revenue and footfalls. Dubai and the UAE remain a hub for e-commerce growth, whether in attracting startups or creating multiple channels to ensure safe and secure payment. Retail e-commerce is therefore an important channel for existing and new businesses in the FMCG sector, in particular with the food and beverage category, in the UAE and obviously around the world. So e-commerce sales in Dubai, in particular, are projected to jump 23% to reach 27 billion US dollars next year. So that is driven by the COVID-led digital shift and changing consumer demand. So some statistics shows that 300% increase in consumer demand for e-commerce services in the UAE was recorded in the first 6 months of last year. And it's going continuously actually from the beginning of Q3 until Q4 until end of Q1 this year. Almost 2,000 e-commerce licenses were issued to new businesses in the first 6 months of last year and recorded a 3% year-on-year surge. So these are due to a number of reasons, obviously, such as Dubai has been highly digital penetration in terms of internet, rising use of mobile wallets, trust in digital payments, going cashless, improves logistic, and obviously the government intent support. So now how we can trade FMC products, or if we do have a product in the UAE and we want to list them to the major e-commerce platform, such as the Amazon.ae and Noon.com. So we begin basically with a register as a vendor, which requires your copy of your trading license. We also need to have your tax identification number to apply with, and basically the necessary authority approvals of your product, which is needs to be approved before we can import. So that falls under the product registration. So once we do have all of these requirements, before we get the approval, say for example, if we do it under the Dubai Municipality, so every single product has different classifications and requirements on how we are going to register the product. So from the product registration point of view, from the clear photos of the product up to all the certifications required to make sure that the products are safe to be traded or to be consumed by end consumers, up to the label assessments, all the artwork, which entails including the Arabic translations of the ingredients. So the product registration process is very crucial and it's time consuming. So we better make sure that a company whom you will decide to be part or strategic partner will be well experienced on doing the product registration, or else the product application will take you months and ages. So once you've got all the registration approval from the governing authorities, so we can then jump to second step, which is, for example, Amazon.ae or Noon.com. So we could upload your listings once they approve and see and check all the requirements you provided. And then after the approval, we can basically jump into the last step would be we are ready to trade. So the norms on how this giant e-commerces works in here. The first thing that they've asked is if your products are approved or registered under Dubai Municipality or ESMA or Dubai Health Authority. So that is really, really important. And once your products are registered, so you are protected, your label and your brand, and you can import and re-export it right away. So within the mainland or free zone, basically outside the UAE. And it's a hassle-free trade inside and outside the UAE. And the registration is valid for 5 years. So the main purpose of the product registration as well in Dubai Municipality is basically for safety. So this process permits to hold adequate information to evaluate the safety of the products. So product registrations specify that each product which will be imported in Dubai for local trading should be registered in the governing bodies and get registration certificates, which may be asked, and this is very important, which they always do, at the time of the shipment, especially on custom clearing. So if a product is not approved by, say, Dubai Municipality, so your penalty on the custom, whether that is shipped through air or by sea or by land, it will get stuck to the custom until you get your products approved and basically registered. You have the certifications registered of the product. That is basically all the informations that I'm happy to share with you. For any questions, our colleague Faya is there. I'm going to share also my email ID on the chat box. And I hope you enjoyed the presentation and has been really a big help for all of you. And I'm going to be introducing our strategic partner for a few years now, who actually the brand owner of the innovative, we call it the 21st century tea, Mr. Ricky Kothari from Sticksology. Over to you, Ricky.
Thank you, Louie. Thank you for the introduction. And thank you so much for the Chamber of Commerce for the invitation to share with you exactly what the corporate group and the corporate trade house has we've enabled together to bring a product to a new territory. And so I'd like to just share with you how Louie's explained that process, in reality, what it really means. And so I'll bring it to life, and I've got some slides to share with you, which will help articulate how physically a product can then be presented in a new territory. And I'll share a bit about our journey as well. So I'm just going to share screen. And then, I hope everyone can see that. So we, myself and Faya, met at a Enterprise Nation event over in central London in near Victoria. And I think it was around February time. And that really was a starting of our relationship, and understanding that as part of our growth and our approach was to look at new markets and new territories. And when we first launched our product range, which I'll come to shortly and explain a bit more about where we are, having an international presence has always been our focus. So what is Stixology? Well, Stixology is founded by myself as the founder of Stixology. We look to making innovation accessible and helping find a better for you set of products and tools that make life easier. So what myself and my school friend Kim, we co-founded this company in order to develop new products and new ideas. And we've been school friends from a young age, and we've always looked at new ideas together, going into laboratories, trying to experiment with things and build new ideas. And we've always had a zest for coming up with things that make life easier. And we got an office together in East London and 38 Commercial Road. We started our business and our ideas, formulating them in the basement. And this is a picture of a lady came in, she was about 98, about 5 years ago, and she presented this picture. And this is 38 Commercial Road in East London. And she said, my parents used to own a general store and they used to sell tea. And you can see on the image, there's Lion's tea and stuff. And I said, funny enough, we're just coming up with a new idea of producing a new way of brewing tea. And that was just a kind of nice story to tell. And as part of that innovative experience, we wanted to bring the loose leaf tea quality with the convenience of tea bags, but without the mess. And how do we do that? We add quality ingredients and we take away that tea bag, but we've created a tea infusion stick. So tea in a stick, it's loose leaf, it's perforated here. You take a cup of freshly boiled water. I'll just quickly demonstrate because I haven't had my tea today, and literally stir to brew. And you'll see you're brewing your own cup of tea without the need for a teaspoon and no mess and no drips. And so I'll continue brewing that and then have my cup of tea after. So that's what the premise is. And that's what the innovation we sought to bring about in 2015. And since then, we've been supplying offices and hotels. And obviously, that has caused quite a challenge for us in the period of COVID because hotels are closed and sorry, that hasn't come up. I can't move that. Hold on. Where that's come from? Sorry. Let me just stop sharing that and try and get rid of that. So we brought about our product in 2015, and let me just go back to that slide. Okay.
You're doing very well, Ricky. Multitasking while talking, bringing up slides. It's all very difficult.
Can you see this?
No, we can see you smiling. It's okay. Carry on with your words. Don't worry about the slides.
Okay. So yeah, in 2015. Oh. Sorry. Hold on. So yeah, so because so our vision was about bringing convenience and a lifestyle product to the market. And sorry, I'm just trying to get this back because it's quite
okay. Ricky, while you focus on bringing that back. Oh, look, he's okay. We're on track again. We're all right.
On track. Okay, good. Can you see that? So so we launched in 2015 the tea stick product to look at innovation, but 2020 was a real downturn for all of us because of the COVID. And what we did, we decided, because we lost all our hotels and offices, we donated most of our stock that we had in the UK to the NHS. So we donated to care homes and NHS, and we said, look, we've got to really think about our strategy now and look to new markets. And not only in 2020, we had some good news. We achieved the Great Taste Producer Award, even though we weren't trading as much as we'd like to. So that gave us a really inspiration to then pick up that conversation that Faya and I had in 2019 to say, look, there's opportunities that we have not explored. We know that we get customers directly from Dubai and the United Emirates contacting us, and we send tea separately to them. And it goes through a long process. They don't get it on time. It gets stuck in customs, etc. So here's the opportunity. What about partnering and finding the right partner in UAE to help us launch our brand? And so that's when we sat down. 2020 gave us that time to really think about what markets are really strong in. And we've always been a global reach type company that we look to focus on and develop our brand. So we started from 2016 in Asia, and we saw the opportunities with the online presence there and how the platforms work, even though we started off offline in the retailers like Carrefour. And then we focused on our strategy of growing our brand, not only in the UK, and as Alan said, Brexit has caused a lot of challenges for us. And so we looked beyond that, but we don't want to also not only block out our partners there because they are closer to home, but also to expand our thinking and be more worldly in that respect. And that's where UAE and the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia is where we see a lot of benefits coming through from 2021 onwards. And so this is just to show you our thinking and our strategy. And I think it was also mentioned by another speaker about some areas in Latin America. There's growth opportunities there. So that took us into the whole process of partnering with Corporate Trade House. And how do we go about doing that? We went through that whole process as Louie took us through. So imagine the timeline. February 2019, we met, we sent samples in August, we discussed the product, and rightly so, the Corporate Trade House looked to find the right partners and interest in the product. It's no point having a product if there's no interest and no end consumer there. So that's where they fed back and said, look, there's really a lot of interest in the product and innovation and what it actually means. So in 2020, February, we sent samples again for a smaller stand at Gulf Foods, beginning of 2020, and that got really good response. And then we took that relationship forward further by then registering the product with Louie, providing the information, getting it through the municipality, Dubai municipality, and getting all the range of products established for a launch in 2020. And this is fantastic. This is such good news for us as a small business in a time of pandemic where we can actually do business successfully. And so that was really exciting for us, because then by March, April, May, we were going through our own agreement together and how we form our strategic partnership. And also we like to work with partners who share our same aspirations about innovation, bringing new products to market. And we don't want to work with 5 or 6 partners. We want to work with one and spend our energy and time with that, because we did that in Asia, in China, and that was successful. So we know that works well. So we give our attention to that relationship. So that also brings me into why did we look at UAE? Again, the opportunities of online. So here's a snapshot of some of the key websites that Louie and myself have been discussing over the past period, which are now listing our Sticksology brand, which you can see some of the boxes behind us. So we've got a range of around 10 flavors, 10 different blends that we create, blend in the UK and then package in Europe now to make it easier for exporting internationally. And here's some of the ideas and areas that has worked well in. Horeca is something that we're very keen to explore because it's actually FMCG, is fast moving. And also in this pandemic, our product has actually served a purpose because you're not necessarily sharing teaspoons. So therefore it's very hygienic in that respect. And I think that's where the feedback came from the hospitals and the care homes. So as you can see, not only online presence is beneficial where there's real big growth, but we always fundamentally started as a brand and producer to start with offline. And so our thinking at this moment in time is very much growing in the online space. So if you looked at 2019, it was very much very little in the online space and more in retail supermarket, but we see this changing now. And that also in 2020, we had the time to then invest in R&D, and we are a coffee roaster as well, and we produce capsules. So we moved away from plastic capsules to biodegradable, compostable, which we supply to hotels again on a wholesale basis. So that's also part of our product pipeline. So that gives you a snapshot of that timeline I kind of talked to you about around when we met in February all the way through to SIAL exhibition and December, and then picking up for Gulf Foods to really test that product and get the feedback to say, yes, it's something that's going to fly in this marketplace. And that obviously we supported and worked, you saw in the original image of Corporate Trade House, the Gulf Foods exhibition, and they had a huge stand there, which really gave prominence to the product. And from feedback, surprisingly, a lot of people did turn up face to face, whereas in the UK, it was all virtual exhibitions. So just to give you a snapshot of some of the retailers offline that we've worked with, we looked at designing with Louie and team the stand. So we supplied some of the imagery that goes with it. So it gives real prominence within the retailer, helps explain the product range and why it's different from other regular tea brands. And you can see some of the exhibitions. So it gives you a real good presence in where we are trying to share our brand. So, and that kind of leaves me with 2020 is tough for many of us on this call, on this webinar, and it's kind of taking Winston Churchill's quote of a pessimist sees a difficulty in every opportunity. Yes, it takes considerable time when you look at new territories to get registered, get the documentation lined up, get all the certificates, but it's worth it in the end. So you look at the opportunity that's there in a difficult situation. And this picture was taken one morning when I kind of had that light bulb moment. And I just want to thank you. And as Alan said, lift your sights. There's a really powerful quote he mentioned right at the beginning, and I think that's quite prominent. And I just want to leave you with my details there, and also a code for members if you want to take advantage of 35% off an entire order. Type in chamber 35 on www.sticksology.com. Thank you very much for your time. Sorry about
Ricky. Thank you very much. What a great presentation. I can't believe you managed to get in Richard Branson, David Cameron, some great images of our fantastic NHS that have done such a good job to save us all. And you managed to get in Deborah Meadham as well. You got in a dragon to breathe fire on your tea. Also, I think it's really good of you to put up some wonderful pictures of what it really looks like on the ground in Dubai when you go along and visit some of these exhibitions. And just before I welcome Steve Rapley to make his presentation. Steve, thank you for joining us today. We missed you at the beginning. I'd like to say that can anybody who's interested in coming along on a trade mission that we can organise to the fantastic World Trade Exposition coming up later this year in Dubai for the United Arab Emirates, please put some comments in the chat, and we'll be looking to put together a group of people to perhaps take down, have a stand with CBS and try and get some of our really good products from West London on the ground in Dubai as part of that World Trade Exposition. It's a unique time to go to a World Trade Exposition and see all of the products from all over the world. And after a huge lockdown for the last 12 months virtually in the UK, getting out in November to visit somewhere like Dubai would be a wonderful chance to not just expand your business into one market, but expand your business into the whole of the Middle East, the whole of the Gulf, and the whole of Africa and part of Asia. Do be in touch, and put some comments down in the chat box if that's of interest to you. So Steve Rapley, where are you? I know you're here somewhere. There you are. We were wondering how much of a suntan you would have coming back for such a long stint in the Caribbean. It's really good to see you, my friend. The stage is yours. Please give us your presentation about how DIT can help West London exporters. Thank you, Steve.
Thank you, Alan. Can I just check that everybody can hear me?
Yep, we can hear you very well.
Oh, lovely. Okay, well, it's great to be here. Let me just do the share screen. Hopefully. How's that looking, guys?
Okay, if you start your presentation on your presentation icon, then it will maximize the size of the first image.
Okay, let me see how I do that one then. Sorry. Sure.
Okay, Lisa, would you like to give a tip? I think it's down at the bottom right-hand corner next to the sound bar, one box in.
Not
on
the
left.
sound bar where you enhance the size.
Make the text larger, perhaps? Is that
F5, press F5.
Yeah.
F5? That's what I like to hear. Or Shift F5, perhaps?
When you're sharing your screen, make sure you share the actual presentation, not your screen itself.
Okay, just bear with me, sorry. Technically challenged here, last viewed. Hide presenter view, perhaps, screen.
All right, I've got an idea for you, Steve. If you go up to the very top on the icons, it says slideshow. If you click on that, it'll say start slideshow. Here you go.
There you go.
Are we good?
Yep, the stage is yours.
Ta-da! Okay, let's go back to the beginning. Well, welcome to myself and nice to see everybody. I would just like to go back to what Alan was saying. Yes, I have just spent 6 months away, but I'm now back in sunny Orpington. So it's nice to see a bit of sunshine. So what I'd like to do is just run through a quick presentation on the Department for International Trade, who we are, and what we can do to help companies in their expansion into international markets. So basically what's on the tin, we are here to help companies to grow their business by going into export markets. We also have a number of people who are involved with inward investment as well, so looking to attract businesses into the UK. We have over 100 different markets where we have representation. So we have very good connections worldwide, and we can also help, obviously, to put people in touch with bespoke markets specific to their businesses, be that either services or indeed products. Some of the things that we can do are to, obviously, as I say, to put companies in touch with our connections overseas. They also have a lot of connections of their own with chambers of commerce, etc. So they can reach out to potential partners, look at competition, that kind of thing. So the trade advisors, like myself, pretty much have all been involved in exporting pretty much all of their careers. Myself, I started in the mid-80s, seemed like a lifetime ago, but in the health food business. I've also worked with Allied Wines and Spirits, and for the past 20 years on the automotive side. So I'm actually the automotive lead for the London team. So just a very quick summary of trade and why it's important, obviously, to look at getting involved in international business. Total trade of over £1 trillion. And as you can see, the imports and exports, certainly the balance of trade is closing there. And reasons for exporting, obviously there's potential new markets out there. Other reasons, seasonality. You may have a product that's coming to the end of its life cycle here in the UK, but has potential to expand that in other markets. And by exporting, it makes one look more at R&D and innovation, and therefore, again, opportunities for the companies to grow. Is exporting difficult? Well, it's not if you have the right support. You obviously need to understand and research your markets, but the message is that there is help out there. Just a quick look, because we're looking at United Arab Emirates, UAE. You've probably seen this perhaps from presenters before, and my apologies for coming late, but I was on an Institute of Export webinar previously. So these are the markets where the ease of doing business, they take various criteria. But as you can see, the UAE very comfortably positioned at number 16 and above other European and what one would consider to be key markets. Our portfolio missions and trade shows, virtual, I think is the word right now. Who would have thought that 12 months on we would still be, having these events virtually. I've actually put on a tie for the first time to mark the occasion of a year since we went into lockdown. So first time I've worn a tie in 12 months. So how about that? So to help with that, there's a lot of online support now coming through Department for International Trade and other government services with events, seminars, webinars, and of course, as I'm sure you've heard, e-commerce very much coming to the fore now. One of the services that we offer through our embassies and high commissions overseas is the Overseas Market Introduction Service. It is government, so there's always an acronym, so that's known as OMIS. This is actually one of the few chargeable services, although it is subsidized, where we can actually have our posts or their accredited chambers of commerce, etc., partners, conduct some work on behalf of companies. And very much bespoke to whatever actions those businesses want. So initial work certainly and introductions can be made. If you want to dig deeper, we have a service called OMIS. I'll just put a list here of the events, seminars, etc., which are running between now and June. And I'm not going to read through them all, but basically we talk about finding partners. There's a lot of social media activity now, and e-commerce, as I mentioned, is very much on everybody's agenda. Doing business in the EU, well, we all know about EU exit, etc. So again, focus being put on doing business now and continuing to do business and growing business with the EU. Online, as I mentioned, because face-to-face isn't quite as active as it could be now, but a lot on the great.gov website, and I'll just bring up a few examples of what one can find on there. So it is great.gov.uk, and as you can see, key topics at the moment, obviously UK, EU, COVID, hopefully we are coming out of that, but again, not necessarily DIT support, but certainly government support through the COVID situation. Sort of things you can find on the website: how to create an export plan, finding markets, payment, very obviously very important, and other aspects really of doing business overseas. Online marketplaces, export opportunities, you can actually register and you can put in some keywords. So if countries overseas have opportunities, that will prompt an email invitation to companies to participate in tenders, etc. The gov.uk/transition website, again, that's been going since before the end of last year. But for those that are looking to export to the EU, there's a checker, and again, you put in your own details, your own business, and that brings up information unique to your sector, certainly. And these are the kind of trail that one would go through. Are you ready? Do you need licenses, export declarations, classification of origin, etc. And business support through the COVID-19 crisis. As I say, hopefully we're now coming out of that, but companies still needing support in that area, particularly in hospitality sector, etc., and retail. And the Department for Business, Energy and Industrial Strategy, BEIS, they have daily almost updates. And again, you can log on and receive your own individual alerts for those. This is the kind of information you can get. Obviously, the Northern Ireland Protocol, etc., various webinars that they're offering, the Brexit Support Fund, which was recently announced for training. UK Export Finance, I'm not sure if we've had a representative from UKEF on this particular webinar, but UKEF can help UK exporters working in conjunction with your bank. They can help to guarantee certain deals. And in fact, they can also assist overseas buyers in certain situations where cash flow, etc., may be a challenge. I think their motto basically is not to let any export opportunity go begging, and they're there to support. A third party through the Institute of Export is Open to Export, and I do recommend it's completely free to register with Open to Export. They offer a lot of impartial advice, and as I say, we've got EU exit, we've got the whole situation with COVID, but they've also got a lot of information on VAT, certificates of origin, etc., etc. And they have basically a library of their webinars, which you can go and you can pick and choose either markets or subjects of your choice. Newable is a company basically that is helping SMEs with various aspects of their business. Funding, innovation, and also working with DIT through the International Trade Advisor Network. And just a couple of case studies that I like to share in closing, because not so much the companies, but just the comments. So different programs for different stages of the business. So you might be new to export, you may be a seasoned exporter, but there is support on every stage of the journey, if you like. And this is where we like to be, you know, it's like having a third person involved. So someone outside the box that you can consult with. And of course, we can also signpost you then to other areas of the support structure. So that's pretty much it from me. A bit of a sort of a run through ramble, but my contact information is there. And certainly you can get more information from Alan and the Chamber. And I'd be happy to obviously take questions, but also if you would like to just email me on specific topics, I'd be happy to respond to you. And as I say, if I can point you in the right direction with colleagues' assistance, I'd be happy to do so. So thank you very much.
Superb, Steve. Thank you very much. If anybody wants to get in touch with Steve Rapley as well, or anybody from DIT, please get in contact with myself or Steve directly. Steve and I used to work together in the DIT trade team. It's my pleasure to work beside him. He's a superb trade officer there, and I'm proud to call him my friend. Thank you very much for coming along today, Steve. So we've heard a lot of wonderful presentations this morning. Lisa, would you like to put up a poll for anybody? If anybody would like, we'd run this for a couple of, for a little bit for you to please answer this online as attendees. And we'd love to know if you'd like to come along on a trade mission to UAE for their World Trade Exposition in November 2021. That would be really good. So this morning, we've gone through quite a lot of information. I'd like to highlight something, a little advert for our Chamber of Commerce. We offer a full export documentation service of anybody that is exporting to parts of the world, not just in Europe, where you need export documentation today. You haven't historically, but we offer that as an online service that you can register with us for. We also have with us West London Business today, who've been helping us put together today's presentations. I'd like to say thank you very much to Andrew and to Rohan and their team. And like to see what questions we have in the Q&A box. I see a few of them have been answered, but we've got some new questions in there. One question has come in from Rinal Medina and is asking, what is the appetite like for business in the UAE to meet with UK companies? I can see, Ayman, you've answered that directly to Steve. Shukran jazilan, Sadi. Would you like to tell the rest of the participants and attendees on what the appetite is like for UK goods in the United Arab Emirates, please?
Should I answer?
Yes, please do.
Okay.
Please do.
Okay. Well, there is no doubt at all that UK is significantly important as a party to do business in the UAE and the GCC, because there is lots of common factors and criteria between the UAE and the UK as a country and as a government. And as people, they know more than anybody else the region here. Everything is blended already. Those people who has not done business in the UAE, they have been in the UAE for tourism. They've been visiting the UAE, the region. So therefore, access to market, understanding the market, the significant amount of investors and businesses from UK are established in the UAE and the GCC are a lot and is big. And therefore it facilitates of doing business across all sectors and industries, from the startup companies all the way to globally listed companies. We represent a majority of our clients are from UK and Northern Ireland and Scotland also. And it facilitates ease of doing business between both countries, as a matter of fact. So therefore, you feel like as if you know the region when you are coming here as a UK company, because the support level that is available from the UAE government, being financial or non-financial, the support level that is available from UK government through its agencies here, government agencies such as UK Embassy in Dubai and Abu Dhabi, and DIT and so forth. So they are all over the place. We have British Business Group. There are business councils that is taking care of the British companies here. So they are well established and they are available here to support. So I feel like you guys would not be alone here in your journey towards doing business in the UAE.
I must admit, Ayman, when I had an office in Jabal Ali Free Trade Zone, I used to travel regularly to Dubai and to Abu Dhabi, I didn't feel like I was in a completely foreign country as a British person. I felt like it was home from home, or a second home in the Gulf. And I'm not sure of my exact numbers here, and maybe Steve can correct me, or maybe you can correct me, Ayman, but I think that the UK's #1 export market in the whole of the Middle East is the United Arab Emirates. Is that right?
I believe it should be top 3, if not 1, for sure.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure it's #1. Go on, Steve. Any ideas?
No, I would never doubt your figures. But one thing I was looking at earlier, I mean, UK exports were 10 billion in 2020 to UAE. So clearly there's an appetite for our goods and services. And equally coming the other way, sort of 5 billion worth of goods from UAE to the UK. So as a trading partner, there's obviously a lot of trust, yeah.
And I think that is also reflective of the size of Jabal Ali Free Trade Zone, Freeport, where goods are exported to Dubai and then processed and then re-exported out to other markets. So a lot of that 10 billion isn't just staying put in the United Emirates, it's being re-exported on using UAE finance and the power of the local banks that they have to trade. Ayman, can you answer this other question from myself, perhaps?
Yep.
In Dubai, does Dubai produce any oil itself, or is that all coming from Abu Dhabi? And is the key trade in Dubai in commerce and in tourism?
Yes. Dubai owns its onshore and offshore fields, though the production is majority of it is sold out to the global market, and therefore it is even not enough for Dubai's consumption in terms of oil and gas. So therefore, the oil and gas as a territory and as a projects of onshore and offshore fields are all available, majority of them in Abu Dhabi. The reason is that 70% of UAE landscape is actually under Abu Dhabi territory. So therefore, the volume speak itself in terms of the size and the ownership. And for those companies who are involved in oil and gas services and products and solutions, if they are doing, if they would like to venture into business of oil and gas for UAE, then they have to be in Abu Dhabi, and they will be registered with ADNOC, which is the group, oil and gas company of Abu Dhabi, government. Though there are lots of regional offices of global firms who are taking Dubai as a commercial hub for their region here. So it is more of back office operation, but the actual oil and gas projects and works are all majority done in Abu Dhabi, and some of them in Sharjah, and then minority in Dubai.
Okay, superb. Thank you very much, Ayman, for that. I certainly remember the origins of Dubai, seeing all of the trade along the creek, of all of the dhows going off to different destinations around the Gulf, the Persian Gulf, and hearing that. So we've got the results of the poll now in. Would you like to take part in a trade mission to the United Arab Emirates? Well, look at that. 91% of the people who have attended today have said that they would like to come down on a trade mission. Ayman, you have a lot of people who would like to visit yourself and Louie. Congratulations.
We are going to be waiting for you guys in the airport.
Okay, so thank you very much. I'd like to close with a couple of comments on Steve Rapley and also to Liz. Liz was our first speaker, and I've let her off the hook. I've not asked her too many questions as this has gone through. But Steve Rapley mentions quickly about UK Export Finance. UKEF is the world's, I think, first ECA, Export Credit Agency, and was set up just after the First World War to help UK's exports. And now, with its direct lending policy and its close connections with major UK banks like HSBC, is able to offer guarantees via banks for exporters to help not just fund the purchase for overseas people of the goods, but also to help fund the cash flow supply chain from UK exporters into their supply chain and purchase bigger materials that they might need for those export orders. Is that a fair summary of what they do, Liz?
It is, yeah. So we do work with UKEF and help businesses with finance. UKEF has recently bought out a new scheme, which is their general export facility, and that is opening some doors as well. So it works slightly differently. It is a better scheme. It incorporates more products, easier to use. So if anybody's wants any more information, obviously on the UKEF website, but you'll see I'm listed as one of the contacts for HSBC. So by all means, have a look at that if you want some more information. There's lots of information about UKEF and what can and can't be done.
Okay, superb. The closing comments from our first speaker, Liz, from HSBC. So I'm going to draw this to a close and welcome the panelists back for a wrap up afterwards. I'd like to thank Liz, Steve, Ricky, Louie, Shukran Gazilan, Ayman, and thank you very much for working closely with Rohan and Andrew from WLB today. Look forward to seeing you all soon. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Please Please look out for our following webinars on this series. The next one coming up is about the changing Incoterms and getting those rights to be able to charge VAT or not charge VAT when exporting to the EU. Looking forward to speaking to you and seeing you very soon. Our next webinar is the 22nd of April on international trade. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.